Going back to your days as a door-to-door saleswoman, was that parent company by chance DS Max?
No, Sidcore.
I worked for Sidcore.
Oh God, I'm telling you, everyone has.
Juice,
Oh,
juice,
man,
baby.
Jamie's got juice. Jamie's got juice. Oh God.
You're listening to the premier podcast for men who want to not only be better with women, but want to be better men in general. This is the Come On Man podcast. And here's your host, Paul Bauer.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another week of Come On Man. If you haven't done so already, please like, subscribe, hit those notifications. If you are watching on your favorite podcast platform of choice, please give us a 5-star review. It helps more than you know. I wanted to share this one. This is a 5-star review from Ted from Virginia. This is on Apple Podcasts. He says, a great podcast. This is a great podcast. It is refreshing to hear dating and relationship advice from a masculine perspective geared towards older men. It's actually geared towards any men. Right? The principles are the same, no matter how old you are. But yeah, I mean, like, I'm an older guy, right? I'm going to be 44 this year. I'm sure my content sort of resonates with guys that are a little bit older, probably guys that have been divorced and are back on the dating scene or whatever. So yeah, my content's for you guys. And Ted, thank you for leaving a comment. And you know what, guys, if you are listening on Apple Podcasts right now and you like the show, stop what you're doing, give me a 5-star review, write it out, and I will read it on an upcoming episode. All right. For you guys that are watching on YouTube, please drop a comment. Any comment will do. You can leave your favorite emoji. I don't really care. If you guys are watching during the premiere, right? Because these are all pre-recorded on Mondays, but I posted as a premiere on YouTube so that I can join in the live chat. So if you guys are listening or watching on YouTube right now during the premiere, I'm probably in there right now while I'm editing videos. So say something and sound off. Let me know what you're thinking. And also it's set for a live replay so people can see what you were thinking during the show. So, sound off your thoughts. Join me on social media. I'm on all the good social media platforms. The links are in the description. My new TikTok account's doing well. I'm already over 1,000 followers on the new account. Thanks to me being from South Park, Colorado. Actually, I'm not from, quote, South Park, right? That's like closer to Fairplay. But the show itself is based on, an area that goes from like Evergreen all the way to Fairplay, right? That's sort of, that whole area is really sort of South Park. And one of the producers of South Park, Trey Parker, went to my high school. So a lot of the characters in the show are based off of real people. You know what I mean? So, and I knew a handful of the real people. I didn't know Trey himself. He's a few years older than me, but yeah, it's a real place. Anyway, so I posted a clip on my new TikTok account and it blew up. It went viral and I got a whole bunch of like kids following me now. I got a whole bunch of like 13 and 14-year-old kids that love the show following me, wanting to know more about the real guy that's behind the Mr. Mackey character. So I posted a video showing a picture of Mr. Lackey, the real junior high counselor that we had. Apparently he was working there when Trey Parker was going to junior high there too. So anyway, fun story, fun fact, but follow me on social media. It's a good time. Join the Patreon, patreon.com/comeonmanpod. You can join for as little as $10. And when you join for $10, you get these episodes, the Monday episodes, ad-free. So without all of this stuff, if you guys don't like this housekeeping stuff where I'm talking about, just follow me on social media and join the Patreon. If you don't like any of that stuff, if you don't like the ads on Spotify, if you don't like the ads on YouTube, then join the Patreon. You get the Monday episodes, just the interview portion ad-free. So consider doing that. And then if you join the entire month of February, you join the Patreon, and all Patreon members are getting my Law of Attraction course for 50% off. So if you join the Patreon for $10, you get the Law of Attraction course for 50% off. And when you log into Patreon, I have a promo code there for Patreon members. So check that out. The Practical Law of Attraction course, it's loa.comeonmanpod.com, loa.comeonmanpod.com. And it's a course on mindset. And I'll be playing a commercial for that right after this intro. So to give you guys more information. And then the Patreon itself is patreon.com/comeonmanpod. The links for all this stuff are down in the description, down in the show notes. Let's see here. Get on the email list.comeonmanpod.com. That's list.comeonmanpod.com. For your troubles, I'll send you some free stickers. There's 3 free stickers with that. And they have a cool design. You know, one says red pilled, one says not a nice guy. The other one is sort of stolen from Ric Flair. It says, none of you can be first, but all of you could be next. Right. I love that saying. Anyway, all these are also available on merch too, right? Like t-shirts, hoodies, coffee mugs, all that stuff. So if you go to merch.comeonmanpod.com, merch.comeonmanpod.com, you can, get yourself a coffee mug in the morning. And, it's fun stuff. All right. Joining me this week, guys, this is actually a real treat. I think you guys will really like this one. It was a good collab. So joining me this week is a female dating coach. Paul, you said don't go to women for dating advice. That's a good rule of thumb. Okay, that's a good rule of thumb, but there are exceptions to the rule. I think that Jamie is an exception, and I'll tell you why. So Jamie, she works for one of the biggest dating coach outfits on the eastern slope, right? It's called Modern Flirting. And see, the thing about Jamie, I didn't realize it until this episode, but she has a couple of things that make her very unique. Okay. One, she used to do door-to-door sales, and she used to go do door-to-door sales with the same company that I used to do door-to-door sales with, right? Like this company was commission only. And I learned with that probably some of the the best sales training ever, right? Because there's nothing like, going to someone's door, trying to get your foot in the door, trying to make people like you quickly. Then you'll never get that kind of experience unless you're doing door-to-door sales. So she did that. She worked for the same company. So when she told me that, I was like, oh, hell. Okay. All right. I got mad respect for you now. So we talk about that in this episode. She also is a professional catfish. So a part of her, what she does to sort of get a better insight into the female mind, at least on the dating circuit, right? Because a lot of women sort of filter their experience through dating through their own sort of solipsistic mindset, right? Like, well, I didn't experience that, so nobody did. Right? So she, to get herself out of that, she's actually set up dating apps as men and have tried to, perfect conversations that get more engagement, right? So she has a very unique understanding of what men are going through on dating apps because she's pretended to be men and saw what women are doing out there, right? So those two things make her a very smart fish. And I think you guys are really going to enjoy that conversation, and I will bring it to you right after these words. Do you want a positively unfair advantage in life? Most people tiptoe through life hoping they'll make it safely to death. They let life happen to them. Up until now, I'm assuming that's been your situation. Am I right about that? But you know deep down that you're destined for more. You know that you deserve more money or better relationships. Yet you're stuck doing the same thing over and over again, getting the same results. That ends today, because you're going to check out my Practical Law of Attraction course. My Practical Law of Attraction course will give you the tools necessary to write your own story. You will be in the driver's seat of your life, not just the passenger. Your life is already getting better because you're listening to this message right now. Access this course at loa.comeonmanpod.com. That's loa.comeonmanpod.com. When you're done with this course, the results that you see for yourself will be better. Others will see how your life is changing for the better. And you'll know that everything in this course is true because your life will be better. But the choice is up to you. You have to decide if you want to stay where you are or achieve goals so big that it will blow your mind. The law of attraction is nothing without action. So what are you waiting for? Act now. All right, joining me this week is a dating coach with Modern Flirting, one of the biggest coaching outfits out there. In fact, she has been personally recommended by one of my 3% brothers, Jimmy, who says that he's learned a lot from her and thought I should get her on my show. It's Jamie Date. What's going on, Jamie?
Hi everyone. How are you?
Um, so my first question is probably one you get a lot, but how did you find yourself in this niche teaching dating?
So about 7 years ago now, I used to do so before that actually, I was a door-to-door salesperson. So I actually sold so if you have lived in the Orange County area between the years of 2012 and 2015, I've probably knocked on your door to sell you solar panels. And I was training I was training people to do this, it was 100% commission. So if you don't sell, you don't make, so the hustler culture, the whole nine, right? And I did really well with it, right? So I learned, and honestly, what is approaching if not walking up to someone's door, and getting them to like you real quick, And so in that, I was training people, a lot of them had zero sales experience. A lot of them were, some of them actually didn't even speak English hardly as their second language or third language. And I made it work. And, I did really well for myself, but as some of you in the sales business know, 3 years of going door to door really drained you. So I quit, did my whole eat, pray, love moment in South America. And then I came back and I was like, all right, what do I want to do? What is a kind of a clear path for me? What am I good at? Right. Cause I was always really good at sales, but I don't like sales. I hate that I have to almost like capitalize on the things I love most about myself for a product I don't really care about at the end of the day, or a service, whatnot. So I was perusing Craigslist as you do, and I found a what's it called? A Craigslist ad that was for it was for it was like actually it was trying to advertise to bring people to a party, right? So it's come, talk to these guys at this party, see, I kind of got the gist that I was like for social skills or whatnot. And I was like, tight, you get $100 or whatever, free booze, come hang out. And I was like, let's do it. So I go and, I'm talking to all these people, I'm talking to the guys, whatever. And at the end, they kind of pull all the girls back and they're like, all right, how did so-and-so do? How did this guy do? How did that guy do? Whatever. And, I think more than a lot of the other women that were there, I was giving very, solid advice as far as, just being more real, right? So, this guy, he's, talking too much. This guy's not asking too many questions. This guy is standing way too close. This guy's standing way too far, like actually giving very detailed advice as opposed to the other girls who, are for the most part, like, he was nice, just kind of like trying to get their money and leave, right? And from that, I just developed a relationship because at the end, they kind of all looked at each other and they're like, do you want to work with us? So then I became this like, and if you've kind of been in the, dating industry or have signed up for, many dating industries do the same thing, but, boot camps and things like that, or weekends, people pay, they come down, during the week or during the day, they have classes. And I became the girl, that would come to the boot camps, and I would be like the girl that they would essentially, practice on, right? Practice talking, practice escalating flirtation, practice joking, things like that, right? And then it wasn't until, and then that kind of fizzled out over, after a while. But then it wasn't until the beginning of 2020, right before the pandemic, Jared Psych Lawrence at Modern Flirting reached out to me and he was like, Jamie, I'm starting my own company. Come with me. And I was like, baller, let's do it. So then I became what we call a drill model, right? Or drill leader, whatever, where, essentially I would do exactly what I was doing at the boot camp, but it was over Zoom. So guys would pay to practice, all right, I'm at a bar, approach me. I'm, walking down the street, I'm at a party, whatever. And even though it's not, as realistic as doing it in real life, obviously, it still gave me a clear picture on, okay, how are you leading conversations? What type of questions are you asking? What are you not asking? What are, what stories are you telling about yourself? It still gave me a clear image of like, of who that person was probably presenting of themselves when they were out. So I would, give constructive criticism from there. And I think the reason why people or guys, I kind of grew a following from there is I give very, because I think this industry, and I'm sure it can be very filled with very vague, woo-woo, generic advice, be yourself or whatever. And I'm like, that's all fine and good, but what does that mean?
Right.
What are the tangible steps? What is a step-by-step guide that I can do? Because I'm very practical, I'm very scientific, I'm very logical when it comes to the way that I think. And so I want data. I want to know, okay, what do I physically need to do to get from point A to point B? Tell it to me, and tell it to me. Don't sugarcoat it. And I think that's why a lot of guys have kind of found me, because I kind of fill that very rare niche of, okay, I am a woman, so I can tell you from the feminine perspective how you're coming off, which I think is extremely valuable. But I also understand the masculine realm of it, of, okay, you can't just tiptoe around and wait for something good to happen. You actually have to go out and achieve it and get it and strategize with it. Just like everything else in life, we have to work for something that is worth it. And why not something as important as dating, choosing a mate, choosing a partner, what so have you.
Gotcha. Yeah. Going back to the just be yourself thing. One thing I tell people is like, being yourself is great if that's getting you the results that you want. But if you're not getting the results that you want, something's got to change, man.
Right. And I'm not a fan of, and the whole like be yourself thing. It's honestly, if I could rewrite it, I would. It's be your best self.
Yeah.
Like, what is the upgraded version of you? Because everyone daydreams. Everyone has a daydreaming version of like who they want to become. And it's never that much different than who they are now. It's just the upgraded version of it. So let's reverse engineer that. Where in your life, like, tell me, like, where do you want to see your life when it comes to relationships, women, friendships, social circle, a year, 2 years from now? Like dream big. What does that look like? Okay, now that we have that picture, let's reverse engineer on how to actually attain those things. And that's what I help out with.
Yeah, that makes sense. Going back to your days as a door-to-door saleswoman, was that parent company by chance DS Max?
No, Sidcore.
I worked for Sidcore.
Oh God, I'm telling you, everyone has.
Yeah,
everyone has worked for some. I'm telling you, Sidcore is like
juice, baby, juice.
Yeah, juice. I was about to say the same thing. James got juice. Oh God. Yeah, no, it is quite the little cult there. And as much as I have to say, it really gave me my start. If it wasn't for that company and working for them, I would not be the person that I am today, because college didn't teach me jack shit as a, communications major. I just basically did what everyone else did and got drunk for 4 years. Right. But I feel like, yes, life expanded the whole nine, but if I could tell you, and I give this advice, if you really want to get really good with people very fast, do door-to-door sales. And honestly, 100% commission will make, if you don't sell, you don't make, right? So you learn how to swim real quick.
Yeah.
And now because of that, I read body language very well. I know how to have a conversation. I know how to lead a conversation, get people to like you very quickly. And know how to influence someone with what I want from them in a way that is good for both of us, right? And those are just skills that are really just, you can't get anywhere else.
No, they're great skills. So I did it after the Navy. I was a security guard for a while, and I answered an ad for an advertising company. And, Sidcore, it's all just, sort of individual offices doing different things. And all the different offices have their own name, So I was with the Arsene Lee Advertising Group in San Diego, and we did door-to-door office supply sales.
Yeah.
We were selling Quill office supplies.
Yep. I am very familiar. So Solar branched off from Quill. Who was your boss? Who was the guy that ran it? Do you remember his name?
Randy Bernard.
I don't know Randy, but if you ever heard of Teddy,
Mm-mm.
or Jamie Hepp.
Jamie Hepp. Heard of Jamie Hepp? Yeah.
I was under Jamie Hepp. I was actually directly under Jamie Hepp.
Okay.
And Jamie Hepp, I remember, love the guy, honestly. I mean, he gave me a lot of, positive motivation, positive reinforcement for what I was doing. I mean, of course, I was selling a lot for his company at that point, but when I quit, one of the things I'll always remember was he, looked at me and he was like, I will be honest with you. Knowing what you could do, I'll never have to worry about you. Like you'll be fine, and that was something he doesn't give those types of compliments very often.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, wow, like that was, really nice. And then, and I always give love as much as, I have my qualms about that company. I will say I will always be indebted to them. They did make me who I am.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that I loved about that company, and I also hated it, but I still to this day think it's funny is when people quit, right, or they decide it's not for them, they always give like this negative sales pitch on, look, you're not going to ever be anything in life, and what are you going to do? You're gonna own a bar or something, and there's moral aspects to that you need to consider. It's like it was such a funny, interesting place to work, but I didn't realize how much sales, especially door-to-door off supply sales, translates to dating until after I started studying dating, because I was married when I was doing that. So it wasn't like I was using it for dating.
Right.
And then when I was out of practice for like 15 years when I got divorced. And so then I had no idea what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Ended up in a crappy relationship for 4.5 years, found myself back on the dating circuit. And I was like, I need to figure this out. Right. And so then, I started reading a bunch of books, started practicing this stuff. And one of the books I read was How to Be a 3% Man by Corey Wayne. And he talks about how dating is very much like sales. And I was like, I probably got some of the best sales training ever from Sidcore. So that's awesome. That's awesome that, that you did that. There's not a lot of people.
It's funny you say that. From my light research actually, of like dating coaches, if you read a lot of where they came from bios, a good amount of them came from door-to-door sales.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, holy shit, like that's so crazy. Like, but of course now that when you think about it more, like actually it makes complete sense,
total sense. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, again, it really gave me my start. And actually some of the stuff that I learned, when we did our morning meetings, right? Mm-hmm. Some of the speeches that they gave, I still use, when I'm teaching, my clients.
Do you? Do you give them was it the 4 or 5 steps to a sale? I can't remember.
Well, yeah.
You do all that kind of crap?
The 4 ways. I think it's like the 4 ways to influence, the 5 steps to a sale, and the 8 great work habits.
Yeah. This is awesome. So last year, you made a video that I stitched, and it was about the concept of not asking a fish how to catch a fish. You ask a fisherman, and you said like it was literally the dumbest idea ever. And without debating you on that, because my listeners sort of know my take on it. Can you tell us why that concept isn't accurate?
I think it just it creates an environment to where you're going to potentially not listen to good advice. Am I saying every female dating coach is great? Absolutely not. I actually would agree that I think the majority of them aren't good. Having said that, as we also spoke about earlier, some male dating coaches are also shit too. So I think putting blanket statements over big concepts like, oh, all women, like if you don't want to catch a fish, don't have a fish, ask a fisherman. It just creates an environment to where people will turn down something that actually could speak to them. Why do that? Listen to the person that listen to the advice and see if it resonates with you. And if it does, who cares if it came from a girl or a guy? I also think it is ridiculous in the fact that if you think about it, there are how many people on the fucking planet, right? A bajillion?
8 billion. Yeah.
Right. Half the 4 billion are women. You're telling me every single girl, every single 4 billion people, there's not one girl that's out there going, you know what? I see these guys doing this. I think maybe I can help them. I think maybe I could look at this and go, from an objective point of view, saying, okay, I see what they're trying to do with this. From a female perspective, let me see if I can help them. You really tell me not one fucking girl out there that's smart enough to do that. That's ridiculous, right? So again, you know, I think it's rare, but I think that we're out there, and so having that little quippy little statement is just preventing a lot of people from maybe getting something that they really need.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can see that. I see, you know, like you just mentioned, there's plenty of like guys that are giving terrible advice out there. I see a lot of stuff, and I used to believe a lot of this stuff before I studied, you know, attraction and all that. You know, that you had to sort of impress a girl, right? Like lead with your wallet and, you know, flowers and chocolates and all the crap that you see on TV. What is some of the like the most terrible advice you've ever heard? Like maybe you're scrolling through TikTok, or you've just heard other guys say to you, maybe some of your clients.
Honestly, some of the guys that comment, you know, I heard this one, and this is more relationship. It's not really so much picking up women or whatever, dating or whatnot, but like never apologize to a girl. And I was just like, oh God, that is very heavily toxic. That's more like relationship advice. Terrible advice, but either way, I'm trying to think you know, this one actually. Don't talk like keep asking her questions and just keep her talking. Like you shouldn't be talking anywhere near the amount that she is. And I'm always kind of like, why would you do that? How are we as women going to decide if we like you if we don't know jack shit about you? Right? Like we have to know what you're about to know if we want to be with you or not.
Yeah.
So how are we going to decide that if all we've done is talk about ourselves?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there is a method to that madness a little bit. It's sort of the 80-20 rule where you do have to give a little bit about yourself, but you sort of do want to remain a little more mysterious. And you also kind of want to be a good listener. So, so that's always worked for me, actually, you know, keeping the conversation on her, because like whoever's controlling the conversation and asking the questions is sort of in control of the conversation.
See, I disagree with that. I think that the person asking the questions, it feels like you're leading, but really you're just relying on her to carry that conversation with her answers.
Yeah. Well, I guess it depends on how you ask the questions too.
Right. So I mean, here's the formula, right? So you can ask a question. I'm not saying don't ask questions because that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You can ask a question, but it should be question, response, statement. But a lot of guys will just go question, she responds, and then he asks another question again.
Oh yeah, like an interview. Yeah, that's
yeah. Do that, yeah. You know, so respond to what she's saying by either how you feel about the subject, how she feels about the subject. If you were in her situation, what would you do? You know what I mean? Or like relating to something else from your own personal life, like put an anecdote in there, something that gives her, okay, now as a woman, now I have multiple conversational threads to riff off of from what you're saying.
Yeah.
And now we're in this banter conversation, which is what we all want. Right. And I think good banter isn't 80-20. I think good banter might be 50-50, 60-40. You know what I mean? Somewhere along those lines.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. One thing too, I think a lot of guys miss about the idea of doing that too, is that you want to take a genuine interest in the person you're talking to and actually listen to what they're saying, as opposed to trying to think of the next thing to say. And if you do that, then they might say something that leads you to another question, or like you said, a statement or something that can actually carry a legit conversation, as opposed, you know, one that's a little more natural flowing, as opposed to just interviewing her. Okay. Where are we at? Okay. Check this off my list here.
Yeah, exactly.
So one thing that you told me in our pre-show call that I found fascinating is that you're essentially a professional catfish, which I would imagine gives you a very unique insight in how women act, especially on dating apps. What are some of the biggest takeaways from doing that, that you found that men should really know?
So it goes back to don't ask a fish to fit, or don't ask a fish to catch a fish to ask fishermen, like ask a catfish. So I mean, honestly, online dating gave me the rare opportunity to to disprove what you're saying. So I pick up women professionally on online dating apps because it gives me the opportunity to not be a woman, but still use my words and the messaging strategy and the bio writing. The only thing I don't use, obviously, is my photos, right? But I mean, I still use all the other stuff that works, and it gives me the data points. I mean, look. Actually, I'll show you right now. I go back and forth because your girl is also on dating apps for me too. But literally, look, this is from a couple days ago.
Uh-huh.
And you know what I mean? Like, I think I restarted it yesterday. And I'm already getting, results. And that's just one app, right? So I usually do Bumble, Tinder. Actually, I don't do Bumble anymore because as a guy, it's harder for me because I'm catfishing. Because Bumble has things where they tie you to your. Anyway, that's besides the point. I usually do Hinge and Tinder, which Hinge is the best, by the way, if you're in America.
I agree with that. I agree with that statement. Yeah.
1000%. But I would say the things that I have learned is, I mean, honestly, it goes back to like, don't be an interview, right? But also, I think something that is so interesting, and again, this is my issue with the industry fixating on the fact that women and men are so different. I challenge that. Women and men are a lot more similar than we'd like to think. And I think the reason why I want to do away with this we're so vastly different idea is because it's psyching a lot of guys out. Talk to women like you would your homies. Start, like, one of the things that I teach is like, start a conversation on online dating as if you're in the middle of it. No, like, getting to know you vibes of, question and answer, whatever. Like, the reason why Hinge is so great is a lot of these prompts, I literally treat them as if I was already in a conversation with this girl and she had just said it in real life. And what would I respond with? It wouldn't be like, oh, you're cute. No, it would be literally, okay, I would be continuing as if we were already in that conversation. And just that mindset shift really, really helps, because I'll be honest with you, I see, even in my personal life, I have a lot of guy friends, like, I see them when he's hanging out with all the homies, with all the friends, right? And then all of a sudden I see him talk to girls that he's interested in. And it's like a watered down version of him. Like, he's not being that quippy, funny self that he's with. And I think a lot of it is they're like, oh, she's not going to find it funny. Oh, she's not going to understand sarcasm. She's not going to understand satire. Like, where she's so different. She's so different. And no, it's actually quite opposite. I think a lot of people find, if you go, I mean, that's the other thing I teach too, is like, if you find it funny, odds are we're going to find it funny. Right. And so, I mean, unless you're being insulting and making her the punchline of the joke, obviously, but that should go without saying, don't do that. But that is just one of my biggest tidbits is do not water yourself down just because she's pretty. And that's the other thing. Stop thinking that we're so different. Honestly, we are the exact, like, stop putting us on a pedestal or putting us beneath you. We are the same. Right. So, treating them, not so differently, I think it helps people, or helps men, at least with approach anxiety, and not psyching themselves out.
Yeah, a lot of guys, it's a self-limiting belief that they're putting women on pedestals. They think like they treat different women different too, right? Like the pretty girls, they treat a special way. Girls that they don't find attractive, they treat like they're boys. And one thing, like, I agree 100% with what you're saying. They essentially need to treat all women, or even all people, the same, and have those same type of conversation, and actually treat women like they're human beings, as opposed to like some kind of trophy or something like that. And they'll do so much better because they'll be more relaxed, And right. I think that's another thing too, is that guys just they get all up in their head and they're like, oh, I'm trying to impress this girl, which is just, I think, the wrong way to go. It's just the wrong way to do things. I agree 100% with that.
Right. No. And oh, sorry. And
go ahead.
So yeah, I mean, I completely agree. And that's the other thing too, is by separating your view of, men are here and women are here, you're actually doing yourself a disservice, because peer approval is one of the biggest, like crucial ways to attract women. And by peer approval, I mean getting her friends, some of them ugly, to like you. Right. And so if you are so used to treating women that you're not attracted to so differently, it's going to show. She's going to see that, and she will choose her friends over a guy she just met at a bar every time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Guys have to, especially if they're approaching groups of women, there's always at least one gatekeeper in that group, right? And it's usually the fat, ugly one. And you have to win her over, so that she's like, okay, you can date my friend, that kind of thing.
Right.
Is kind of a fun thing. Yeah, that's one thing I that Jimmy actually told me. He said that he went to, I think, one of your events or boot camps or something. You guys went out to a club or whatever, and you taught them different ways of approaching people. There was all sorts of different, I forget what he called it too. He had like names for it. Like there was, give me some names, because I don't know any of this pickup.
I'm not sure. Are you talking about like positioning or?
I can't remember. It was like he was using like a wingman to get girls to come up to them and stuff like that. I don't know. There was all these different tactics, and they all had names.
So the thing that I love most about Modern Flirting is it really kind of puts the whole like pickup artist community idea on its head. So a lot of the reason why the pickup artist community, you'll see the guys that stay in that world, even the dating coaches themselves, they're not married. They're not, you know what I mean? Like dating consistently. Right. And I think it's because this whole idea of like I'm going to take a girl out. I'm going to hit on her. I'm going to, you know what I mean? Like it's this, like, I'm going to isolate her from her friends. I'm going to, escalate flirtation on her. It's like very like take, like, because I want something, I'm going to get from her.
Mm-hmm.
And what Modern Flirting is so great at is we kind of looked at it and like, okay, so pause. Yes, you will get women. But the issue that I see a lot of these guys come to us for is it's like a revolving door. They get tired after a while. It's like every girl, I go on like 1 or 2 dates, and then she doesn't want to talk to me anymore. And they're like, he's like, I don't understand why I can't get, a girlfriend. I can get girls, but I cannot get a girlfriend. And so the idea that I love with Modern Flirting, we call it Vortex game, where it's the idea of you're giving everyone, pretty women, not pretty women, other dudes you haven't met, everyone in the environment that you're in, the best time. You are just adding value to whatever environment that you're in, right? And it always works. I mean,
maybe that's why he called it. Maybe he called it Vortex. Yeah.
Right. I mean, think about it. Every guy in here or listening probably has had an experience where they go out and they're like, you know what? Like, I don't even give a shit about, or like, I'm just going to have fun. I'm going to have so much fun. Like, I'm not even thinking about girl. They always end up hooking up with a girl, because the girls, women mirror energy. So when we see a bunch of dudes or guys and girls, whatever, having a bunch of fun, we're like, bloop. Okay. How can I get closer with them? Because they seem like they're having a lot of fun. I'm just having a boring conversation with my girlfriend that we could have just easily had at my house. How can I, like, the best nights, honestly, when it comes to girls and guys, the best nights out are when you meet a group of people and they're really fun and it just adds to your night, because your reality exceeds your expectations. That is where fun lives. That is where happiness lives, is when your reality exceeds your expectations. It's not just another night out. You end up having a lot more fun. And it all starts with the guy leading that, giving her what we call positive emotional stimulus, PES. And that is what actually attracts women for longer than just a few nights, because she's like, okay, that's really fun. Because here's the other thing too. I'm a huge fan of Esther Perel. I don't know if you know her. She's one of my idols. She's amazing. Yeah, she's really great. She has like one of the highest watched TED Talks. But she's a relationship and dating expert, attraction expert, desire expert, whatever. And one of the things that she talks about is when she asks people, like, your partner or just someone you're kind of dating, or even how you guys met, whatever. What is the most attractive, like when you are most attracted to your partner when they do X, right? What is that thing? And by and large, everyone, when they're in their element, I am very attracted to them, right? Because they're showing that they're self-sufficient, men and women, right? They're showing they're self-sufficient. They don't need me. They're good on their own. And they're so attractive because they're confident in whatever it is that they're doing, right? So you apply that same logic to when you go out. When you're laughing with your homies, when you're cracking jokes, when you're making friends with the bartender and the waitress, when you're, high-fiving random people because they just did a cool dance move and you're like, that's fucking dope. Let's like dance off, right? Little things like that. You are in a social element where you are creating the vibe, and women look at that and are like, damn, that's hot. A guy that is the life of the party, that is, I don't want to say life of the party, but someone that is really just self-amused, right? That's the key word here, self-amused. That is when a girl is going to look at that being more sexy than looks, than money, than, all of that other stuff, right? When a guy is showing that self-amused, I don't give a fuck about anyone else because I'm having a really good time, still within respectful reason. That is what's really attractive. So displaying that and really getting used to learning how to actually display that when you're out. It actually brings women in easier. It's working smarter, not harder.
Yeah. A lot of guys don't realize when it comes to like pickup artistry, because it does sound cool, right? Just go out and sleep with random chicks all the time. That's like most guys' dream. But the guys in the game, one, they were targeting specific types of women. They were looking for specific types of women that they thought were more susceptible to whatever was that they were doing. And then two, they all ended up with like mental issues. They were all fucking depressed. It was funny because I think most guys, if they are honest with themselves, do want something more, at least eventually, right?
Yeah.
Like most guys don't want to be. Yeah, most guys don't want to be plate spinners for the rest of their lives. There are guys, I know some guys that are like permanent plate spinners, and that's what makes them happy. Cool, but most guys aren't. And it is infinitely easier, especially if you're somewhat attractive, you're in good shape. It's infinitely easier to meet chicks, hook up with them, than it is to meet chicks, hook up with them, and then maintain some kind of attraction where she wants to see you after like 2 or 3 dates. Like and that was one of the things that like I ran into when I started studying this stuff, was because I was in pretty good shape and I was able to get dates, meet chicks, hook up with them, but like keeping them around for like a 3rd or 4th date was like a miracle.
Right.
I was like too needy. That was a big thing, is like letting go of that neediness and like being guys really have a problem with pushing for a relationship, and that just comes across as unattractive and stuff like that. So that was something that I ended up having to learn, that it's you sort of just need to hang out, relax, have fun, show her a good time, be the guy that shows her a good time, and then let her come to her conclusion of whether she wants a relationship or not.
Right. Well, that's the other thing too. I think so 2 things I want to say about that, but I think it's it's the whole stereotypes of women are like this and men are like this. So a lot of guys are like, oh, well, women just want relationships. So if I want a relationship, she obviously is going to want a relationship. So I'm just going to treat it like it's a relationship. And that's when you come off needy. This is why I want to do away with the fucking stereotypes altogether, because it's fucking with people. How can there are 8 billion people on the planet? We can't all be like one thing or the other. Life is way more colorful than the black and white image that people are creating. And the other thing I wanted to talk about, so I'm reading another book right now that everyone should read. It's called The Molecule of More. And it's all about the recent studies that have come out about what dopamine actually is in our system. So we grew up learning that dopamine is like the pleasure center, right? When in actuality, dopamine has much more to do with anticipation and expectation. And actually, as soon as you get the thing that you try so hard for, that dopamine shuts off. Boom. That's why all of these pickup artists from back in the day, They're all depressed because they're constantly chasing a rabbit that they'll never catch, because dopamine doesn't work that way. As soon, like, it's all about the pursuit, but as soon as you get the result, dopamine shuts off. And then you realize that that thing that you wanted so badly does not give you happiness. So it's kind of translating the way we see how we try and reach for things. And so that's something I also like to reiterate to the guys that I coach is, be wary of this, because as soon, it's kind of like, with great power comes great responsibility. As soon as, if you are so fixated on getting women, understand that if and when you actually achieve that feeling that you're hoping to get might not be there on the other side. So understanding a more healthy way of getting women, quote unquote, like understanding a healthier habit of, okay, I'm trying to develop relationships and trying to increase my social circle, that, having that sort of mindset is going to save you from, the reality that a lot of these old pickup artists are facing right now.
Going to what you were talking about, dopamine, though, have you ever read anything by Athol Kay?
No, what did he write, though?
Well, the one that I'm reading right now is called The Married Man's Sex Primer, 2011. It's an excellent book so far. But one of the things that he does, he breaks it down into very, very simple terms, though. But he's like, he talks about how our hormones affect our emotions. Right. And it's very simple, though. He says essentially dopamine is where you get your attraction from. Vasopressin in men is where you get that comfort love feeling, oxytocin in women. And then, testosterone is what really sort of gives you that sex drive type thing. So it's funny when a girl says, he broke it down like this. He goes, when a girl says, I love you, but I'm not in love with you, it means I oxytocin you, but I don't dopamine you, right? It means like you're not being attractive to her. You're doing unattractive things, and she sort of loves you as a person, but you're blowing her skirt up, so.
Right. And I mean, and listen, and it's hard, right? Because, and this is what Esther Perel talks about, in Western society and in most cultures nowadays, it's like we depend on our partner for everything. We want to be surprised. We want to be desired. We want to, be attracted to a person, but also we want familiarity. We want, routine. We want everything from this one person. It's tough. It's a tough thing to navigate.
It's largely unrealistic too. And I think that, men and women both would do better if, let's say they sort of keep their partner, and they keep their like baggage and stuff away from their partners as much as possible, and save that kind of stuff for like their therapist or their friends circles,
Well, that's actually, so they did these studies. So a lot of these studies have actually come out recently, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this, but about how women are turning away from relationships because we are notoriously, statistically putting in more work, quote unquote, into a relationship, more household chores, emotional labor, because a lot of men are still very wary of opening up to their friends or going to a therapist. So they rely on the woman to do all, you know what I mean? And then the woman kind of becomes like this caretaker for them. And therefore they, like one of the studies that came out recently is that the more a woman feels like a man's caretaker, the less sex they have. And it's just kind of interesting to see this kind of twist in events. And I think it's both good and bad. So I think it's shaking things up, which obviously need to happen because there's a party that is not being fulfilled in these relationships. But it's making a lot of people, men and women, angry and frustrated with the dating pool nowadays, because I feel like it's so tough versus how it was, maybe 20, 30, 40 years ago. But at the same time, 20, 30, 40 years ago, women didn't have the safety net to leave. So a lot of actions that men did were kind of swept under the table because women didn't either make enough money or have, the social backing to exit that relationship. Also, a lot of men only want younger women. So the older that we become, the less, quote unquote, desirable we become. So our options are few. So we stay. But now we're realizing that, women are kind of leaving these relationships, and I'm always curious to see how it's going to play out. And I hope, and I think that's one of the biggest reasons of why I do what I do is I know that there's a way to bring us back together. And by God, I'm going to work until I figure it out so I can teach the world, because I think that it is the way that things are right now. It is unrealistic. But can it work? Yes, but it has to be put forth work on both ends of the party. And I think both are putting in work and also both are not. And it's just really trying to figure out how to navigate that tough relationship and choose each other every single day.
Yeah. I was in that situation when I was married. I think that probably contributed to the end of my marriage the most. A lot of us guys aren't taught how to take the lead and set the tone in relationship. And like you said earlier, women tend to be mirrors. So if a guy, in this Married Man Sex Primer talks about this too. He says men want like more sex and women just want better men. And a lot of us aren't taught how to be men in a relationship, and we're not taught how to keep that attraction going long term. Like we think that we've hit the finish line once we put the ring on it and go through the marriage ceremony. It's like, well, I don't have to try any harder. I already got her. And that's the biggest thing. If guys realize that, no, the work never stops. Yeah.
That's when it starts. Right. The attraction. Yeah.
Right. The work never stops. You have to keep dating her or else some other guy will. Right. And that's really what it comes down to. And I find, since I started applying that, like I've been in a really healthy relationship for almost 2 years now, since I started applying this stuff. And she treats me like an absolute king, but I also don't ever rest on my laurels and go, well, I already got her. I make sure I take her on dates. I plan the dates. We've gotten to the point where like, I never ask her what she wants to do. I just plan things out. So if there are things that she actually wants to do, she'll just tell me, hey, let's go do this.
Right.
And we never argue about any of that kind of stuff. And it's because I've set that tone from the beginning. And I also sort of stay lovingly detached enough in the relationship that I keep an eye on her attraction levels. And I know if like, oh, I think I'm slipping here. I know like I need to step up my game a little bit. It's on the guys. 100%. I think it's on the guys. Because
I think, it's also both, because the other thing too is, relationships, it's tough, right? So what I always say is like, go back when things seem tough, go back to who you were in the beginning of the relationship. Before she came over, did you clean your house? Yeah. But do you do it now? No. Right. Women, the way that we talk to our men, because we know that they're going to be there tomorrow. We might not talk to them very nicely because we've asked them to pick up their stuff a million times and we are like up to here with it. And we speak very nasty. A lot of women, we will only comment on the things that you're doing wrong instead of, and this actually goes for both parties. Something that will really save relationships is highlighting the good things that are happening, the good things that you're doing. Thank you for being thoughtful. Thank you for always having my back. Thank you for listening, right? So highlighting the good things is also very crucial in a long-term relationship, but we get used to this routine where we're only highlighting the bad and we're just kind of ignoring the good because that is the standard. So it's I think it's both parties, but I think recently, maybe, yes, there is kind of a transition because of course, as much as a lot of men want to go back to these traditional, feminine and masculine roles, and they're angry at women for, these feminazis or whatever the fuck. Well, you're asking a lot from women. You're asking us to put all of our trust in you to carry us financially and emotionally, because then we don't have an option to leave at that point. And obviously we've seen that doesn't work either. And so of course there's going to be an uprising on both sides to figure out how the hell we're going to continue. And honestly, not to get real political on it, but the climate's fucking dying and we need to get on the same team because we're not going to last very much longer if we don't, and we need to focus on the bigger issues. But
that was one thing that I don't like about a lot of guys in the red pill space. And I consider myself as being in the red pill space, but there's a lot of guys that they put a lot of blame on women, right? And they're just like, oh, women, women have no accountability, and we got to hold women accountable and stuff like that. It's like, at some point you got to realize you can't change other people.
Oh, oof,
you can't, you're not going to change all women. All you can do is change yourself and, learn what, makes you more attractive. Be attractive. Don't be unattractive. That's actually a huge thing in the red pill space. You probably never hear it because all you ever hear is like, the red meat out there. People just like, drinking, having girls drink White Claws and throwing them out. It's,
I've heard that on a couple of my comments. I have a bunch of red pillars all over my trolls.
Oh, sure.
My loving trolls.
I'm sure. Yeah, I got them too. And those guys aren't, they've never actually gone back to read the actual red pill material, right? And a lot of it was, how do I, guys would come into the red pill space, especially the married red pill space, with a Google search saying, how do I get my woman to have sex with me again? Oof, right? Because they're in dead bedrooms and they don't realize that they're being unattractive. Yeah, right. So a lot of that is how to maintain attraction long term, especially married red pill. And then the original red pill came from the pickup artist community and stuff like that. Right. It's not about hating women. So that I hate those guys in the comments because they're a poor representation of the other guys that are doing good in the space, that are actually helping people through relationships.
And I agree with you. And and actually a long time ago, Jared and I, we interviewed one of the guys who started Red Pill. Honestly, I barely remember, but I remember listening to him and being like, I agree with you. How come I am always in arguments with people who follow you then? Like, I agree with it. And honestly, the same thing goes with Tate. Like, they're like, listen, like, I'm all for bettering, like, men having the belief in themselves to better themselves. But it's like, why is it, if you are trying to, if you love women and if you respect women, how come so many of your followers are so quick to bash and challenge and shit on women and their body count and the way that they look and all these things? If you really love and respect women, like, obviously you're not communicating your point very well then, because you have this whole uprising of men that seemingly hate women or only like virgin women or women with low, very subjective body counts that are pretty. So you don't love women. You love a very, very small amount of them. Right. So that doesn't make any sense either. So it's just like these leaders of these, pro men groups, I love it, go with it, but really reiterate your point to where you're not also simultaneously creating this angry, frustrated at the opposite sex uprising, because you're also I can't tell you how many guys, and honestly, Jim was one of them, that came from that space. They, and I respect them wholeheartedly because they find me. They would never talk to a female dating coach, but they actually, heard what I have to say. And they're like, you know what? She actually seems like she knows what the fuck she's talking about. And I can't tell you how many guys are like, it's not working. I look around and my life still looks the exact fucking same. Empty bedroom, sore right hand, like that's it. Right. And it just goes to show you that you gotta, we have to be better at these leaders of these groups have to be better at really leading and creating an environment and these the group of men that actually are trying to better themselves and simultaneously not hating the opposite sex for their choices and how they think. Right. So one of the things I talk about, like being a high value male, is respect and protect. Right. Respect the other person, even though they might not feel the same way as you, because you know what works for you and it might not work for other people. And you don't feel the need to step on someone's soapbox or insult them in the way that they live and whatnot, because it's different than yours. And it affects you in the way that you speak to women. You should only be focused on yourself.
Yeah, actually, that's a red pill concept in its own. Rollo Tomassi, the author of The Rational Male, like widely considered the godfather of red pill, he talks a lot about being your own mental point of origin, like doing what's right for you, thinking about what's right for me and then going from there. Because if you do what's right for you, typically the people around you benefit as well.
Right.
Right. And he also talks about how, what's working for this one guy might not work for this other guy. You know, it's not a one size fits all type situation where a lot of guys in, you know, that sort of just tune in for the red meat. Red meat sells. That's really what it comes down to, is red meat sells. And, you know, this honest, you know, actionable information doesn't sell as well.
Right.
So a lot of guys want to wallow in self-pity. There's this guy who's, man, he's been in this sort of space, maybe even longer than Rollo, but he doesn't have a book. You've probably never heard of him. He's on, but I follow him on Twitter. He goes by Rule Zero Dad. And he's a married guy. He's an attorney. He stays anonymous, but he pops into some of these podcasts and stuff like that. And he has a really great take that a lot of guys online are talking about women in the abstract. You know, it's like this abstract concept, but when you go out and actually talk to women, like that's where the rubber meets the road. You know,
right. We call that mental masturbation.
Yeah. Or we call it on the Rule Zero panel LARPing. These guys are live action role playing.
That's funny. Yeah.
They're not actually going out there talking to women. It's really sad, and you can see because they're not getting any results, and then they're wallowing in self pity, and then they blame it on the women. It's like, dude, what are you doing to better your situation? Nothing.
And that's the other thing too. One of my biggest piece of advice: and this goes against so many. Have more female friends. People are like, what? No, friend zone. No, stay with me for a second. If you have more women in your life that you're not trying to fuck, but you're just getting to know, because honestly, it makes a friend group way more fun when you have guys and girls. It actually gets you to understand women and then develop more empathy. I honestly believe it's the same exact thing as racism in this country. You know, for so long, we were so, you know, racist and, you know, no blacks and no Jews and da. What happened? Well, we started becoming friends with them and started to realize, oh, wait a minute, they're exactly the fucking same. That, you know, I actually have empathy for these people, you know, and so it's the same idea, but with women. Like because honestly, if you think about it, I will say the common denominator out of every guy that is really good with women that I know personally, right? And it's a lot because I live in LA. I have a huge friend group and plus what I do, right? Every guy that I know that is really good with women, the common denominator is that they have a healthy social circle that involves a lot of female friends. Because they get it. They understand what we laugh at, what we talk to. And so when they approach women, they view the women that they find attractive. Oh, well, she's not very much different than, you know, Amanda over here, who's the homie. And I don't feel like I'm putting her on a pedestal because I know that they're all the same. You know, it's the separation between men are like this and women are like this that are really fucking people over, especially men.
Yeah, you know what I find too is guys that teach social circle game. They preach that a lot, right? Because maybe this girl that you're inviting to your party has a boyfriend, and he says, "Great, bring him along." And why don't you bring some friends? And that's how like you build up your social circle, and it can be more men and women, and hot women are friends with single hot women. It actually does make a lot of sense. It absolutely does.
Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of men, they get into this whole women are only like the only women I'm talking to are attractive and potential, or they're nothing else at all. And it's like, again, stop living in such a black and white world. The world is way more colorful. Women can be lots of things in your life. You know, I mean, honestly, I can't tell you how many friends with benefits that I have that are the homies that I call to hang out with. Sometimes we hook up, sometimes we don't. And if they're talking to a new girl, great, bring her along. She seems dope. You know what I mean? Like it's this kind of elevated thinking that doesn't pigeonhole. I think this is my whole problem with like red pill in these groups. It doesn't pigeonhole women being like X and men being like X. It allows you to think that there are lots of opportunities. There are lots of roles that people can play in your life, and don't pigeonhole yourself into thinking that can be just one.
I think that's actually a pretty good message, and we're almost at an hour. So why don't we end on that note?
So you guys can find me at Jamie Date, JAMIE Date, on all of the social media platforms. So TikTok, except for Twitter, but that's coming soon. But TikTok, especially Instagram, Facebook, I'm also coming out with an ebook that I might actually become a real book, just because I'm writing so much of it. but I'm going to be finishing that up in the next couple weeks. But it's going to be how to make online dating suck less, lessons from a professional catfish. And that is going to be how you can make the most out of your online dating experience, going from the profile with the photos, how to write a bio, all the way down to actual messaging strategy. And I use real conversations I have with women as a guy, and I break it down exactly the formula I use, all that stuff. And then, of course, Modern Flirting. So Modern Flirting is a dating coach company that is led by me and 4 other amazing dating coaches, including Jared Syke Lawrence, who started it, Cosmo, who was the winner of VH1's Pickup Artist with Mystery back in the day, Dale Valor, who's amazing. So we really teach men to be better men, but in a much more healthy, non-toxic environment. And I definitely make sure of that. So, but yeah, that is where you can find me, Jamie Date.
All right. Thank you, Jamie. I appreciate that. By the time this drops, which will probably be in like February sometime,
okay,
you might already have your ebook out.
Oh, yeah.
If it is, I'm going to reach out to you before this episode airs. If it's available, just like send me a link to it and I'll put it in the description.
Love that. Yes. Hope it should actually be out by then. So yeah, wonderful.
Very cool. All right. Well, have a nice day. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. This was fun.
Jamie, thanks again for joining me. You're welcome back anytime. Juice, baby, juice. I can't believe that we both worked for Sidcore. That is such a fun experience. So for you guys that didn't know, when I asked her if the parent company was DS Max, so back in the day, Sidcore sort of splintered out from this company called DS Max, and DS Max was created by these guys who were selling. They would go to Target and buy pots and pans from Target and then go out and hustle these pots and pans on the street for a profit, right? Like they were selling pots and pans out of their car, but they were all just ones that they picked up from Target. They ended up making like a multi-million-dollar company out of this. So DS Max had what's called the merch division, right? And then they sort of splintered off this new company called Sidcore, and Sidcore's big client was Quill office supply sales. So that's when I started doing it, was doing the office supply sale thing. And man, dude, I swear to God, man, I actually got pretty good at it. There's a lot of psychology in trying to get people to like you quickly, and a lot of that psychology transfers to the dating world. And so yeah, as you heard in this episode, it gives you a unique sort of understanding of psychology in dating. And I didn't quite realize that until I started studying dating, that, oh crap, sales actually translates to dating very well. So yeah, Jamie, great conversation. Welcome back anytime. All right, guys, that's pretty much all I have this week. If you haven't done so already, please like, subscribe, hit those notifications. If you haven't done so already, please comment. Please, any comment will do. Let us know what you thought about the show. Drop it down below. If you are listening on your favorite audio platform of choice, give us a 5-star review and also write out why you like the show on there too, and I'll read that in an upcoming episode. Follow me on all social media. All the links are in the description. I'm on, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. YouTube's technically social media, Twitter, Instagram. Get on the Patreon if you want some coaching, right? Like if you want some dating advice, if you want life coaching, get on the Patreon at tier 2 or tier 3. If you just want to support the show, just, join tier 1 and get on the beer club. That gets you all access to the, to these interviews ad free, and also without this outro stuff too. So do that. Get on the email list.comeonmanpod.com, and I will send you some free stickers for your troubles. I'm not spamming people, so get on that. This is mainly so that if I ever get kicked off of one of these social media platforms, I can contact you, let you know where to follow me. Check out my Law of Attraction course, my practical Law of Attraction course. It's chick crack free. There's no woo-woo magic, vibrations and chakras and stuff like that. It's all psychology based. It's all about getting your mind right. And if you join the Patreon, you get this half off for the entire month of February. I'm making a coupon code available to Patreon members for 50% off the Law of Attraction course. So if you've been thinking about doing the course, now's the time. And you'll get a significant discount if you join the Patreon. And look, I'm all about loopholes too, right? So join the Patreon. Like the Patreon's a monthly subscription, but you can join the Patreon, get the coupon code, and then cancel your subscription. Like I wouldn't even be mad if you did that. In fact, I'd be like, well played. One thing I tell my kids, right? Because I by trade, I'm sort of I work in network security. So I appreciate hackers. So I'm always looking for loopholes into things. And so I always tell the kids, like, look, I make the rules. It's up to you to find the loopholes. You know what I mean? So when my kids do stuff like that, they find like a way around what I told them. I'm like, that's my girl, or that's my boy. So if you guys even did something like that, I wouldn't even be mad about it. I'd be like, nice, smart move. All right, guys, that's all I have this week. Tune in to the live stream on Wednesday. I do live streams on Wednesday and Friday mornings on YouTube now, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. But I like to interact with the audience on YouTube. So tune into the live stream this coming Wednesday, 10 a.m. Eastern time. Other than that, we'll catch you guys later.
This has been the Come On Man podcast. New full episodes served hot every Monday morning on your favorite podcast platform of choice. So subscribe now. Follow Paul on social media. The links are in the description. Now, go out and get it.